What is going on, everybody? I go by the name of Kari, and I want to thank you guys for joining me here today on SneakerPhetish. All right, guys, today we're taking a look at a brand new women's Air Jordan 4 that's gotten a lot of attention and for different reasons. But today I want to not only look at the sneaker, but also talk about why I shouldn't be the one reviewing this shoe. Without further ado, let's get into it. Boom. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. This is the women's Air Jordan 4 Starfish. It's a good shoe. It's a good shoe. A lot of people really didn't like the price. They didn't like the fact it was $200. Then, of course, you had your men that are always upset that women get treated any kind of fairly in the sneaker game, and they got their own sneakers. So a lot of them didn't like that. They're larger sizes. It is what it is. But overall, good looking sneaker. Very, very nice. Very, very well done. Now, one thing I have noticed across YouTube is that a lot of people really didn't go into the inspiration that went into the design of this sneaker. And it's pretty deep. So today, I want to not only dig more into the inspiration behind the shoe, but then I also want to talk about women's sneakers a little bit in general. All right, guys, starting with the upper of the sneaker here. Now, overall, you see it's a classic Air Jordan 4 silhouette. You really can't go wrong with that. And as a matter of fact, I really, really like the color blocking on this sneaker, especially down here in the mud guards and the midsole. But obviously, that's not the first thing that jumps out at you. The main thing that jumps out at you is this really interesting starfish upper that seems to be wrapped in this black mesh netting. What is it? What is it for? And what does this have to do with the inspiration of the sneaker? So the inspiration behind the sneaker, according to the Sneakers app, is space exploration and the materials that are used in space suits. So a quick rundown. If you guys don't know, there are different layers that go into space suits. I live in Huntsville, Alabama. They call this the Rocket City, and we have the U.S. Space and Rocket Center here and the Marshall Space Flight Center here. So this is a big NASA and space exploration town. So that being said, I'm a little bit familiar with space suits and how they're constructed. So let me break it down really, really simply. Spacesuits are comprised of multiple layers, and within those layers, there's multiple materials that comprise those layers. Now, at the base layer, kind of like where your drawers are, that's the liquid cooling ventilation garment. Now, I don't really think that that is really taken anywhere in this sneaker. I think that the layer above that, that's known as the bladder layer, is kind of where the construction for the sneaker begins, and that's where the sock liner is and the insole of the shoe is as well. Now, what the bladder layer does of the sneaker here is it controls the pressure, similar to the way that it controls the pressure inside of a spacesuit. Now, I find that very interesting because it's very akin to the whole take flight initiative here, taking flight like you're in an airplane, like you're in a spacesuit, controlling what's going on inside of the sneaker here. So the inside layer, as it's controlling your foot, locking it in, it's like controlling the pressure inside of a spacesuit. We'll get into the other layers of the spacesuits as we go throughout the rest of the shoe. Let's dive back in. So on these, again, it really reminds me of those black playoff Air Jordan 4s here. Some people call them the bread, some people call them the black cement, whatever you want to call them. It reminds me of those. And the reason why I say that is because you still get gray eyelets on the upper and bottom portion of the sneaker, both lateral and medial side. You still get the black wings that are holding those eyelets in place here. And really more so, like I mentioned, on the mud guards, you get that classic gray mud guard wrapping around the toe box along with the black midsole on the upper portion of the midsole. And that's really dope. Now, of course, you also get black mesh netting on the lateral and medial side, but you're going to notice that this mesh netting looks a little bit different from the netting that's coating the upper of the sneaker. Taking a top down look at the shoe here, again, you get another view of kind of this netting. We'll get into that in just a moment. Black laces on these, no extra laces for $200. That was a bit of a letdown. Let's talk a little bit about the tongue. Now, at first glance, it's a typical Air Jordan 4 tongue tag here. Now, you have the regular tongue tag with that Starfish Jumpman right in the middle. On the back of the tongue here, you see a little bit more of kind of that base layer that I talked about, kind of simulating the spacesuit. This time, the upside down Jordan tag has the Starfish Air Jordan written in it as well. But one thing I do want to hone in on are the various layers that are in this sneaker. Now, again, like I mentioned, you have the exposed foam base layer here, which is interesting that they went with the exposed foam. That seems to be a thing that they're doing these days. But if you look very closely between that, you can see a little bit more of that orange layer here. So what exactly is that made to represent? There were a couple of ideas that were bouncing around in my head, and that has to do with the next layer of the sneaker, which really is the Starfish layer of the sneaker. Now, my first thought was maybe this is ripstop material because ripstop is used in spacesuits as well. It's used to protect you from things that are out in space, debris, things of that nature. Now, another thing that I thought this might have been is Kevlar. Now, if you guys know Kevlar, Kevlar is basically the material that's also made in bulletproof vests. So it's also made to protect you. So like I mentioned, there's a lot of layers and a lot of materials that make up those layers. And then the ripstop layer, that's really designed to protect you from anything that might be knocking into you, space debris, rocks, things of that nature. Now, where does that leave the outer layer of this shoe all around the upper? What's this black stuff? It's not typical mesh, but it's what's known as a metallic mesh. And to me, the metallic mesh is actually made to mimic glass fiber or fiberglass. Basically, something strong is needed to hold all of those materials and spacesuits together, but also be pliable enough that you can easily move around in it. And for a lot of people like NASA, a lot of spacesuit manufacturers, they choose to go with a glass fiber. And you can see that pretty easily when you really look closely here. Again, it's a very stiff shoe. If you hold the shoe in your hand, it feels very stiff, a lot stiffer than most sneakers do. And that's mainly thanks to these base layer materials. And then of course the glass fiber or the metallic mesh that is wrapping around this entire sneaker. So the sneaker really isn't going to go anywhere. And the dope part about it is that when you turn the sneaker like this, you're probably not going to see a whole lot of creasing in the shoe either. But overall, to me, it makes the sneaker look really nice and have a really dope contrast. One of my favorite features of the sneaker here is when you cut the lights off, it's not necessarily a 3M, but just this shimmery kind of material here, this effect, this kind of shining effect. I love the way that this looks on the Jordan 4 Starfish. It looks amazing. I really like the way that they did this. All right, moving down from there on the bottom half of the midsole, you get this really dope sail color. Moving around to the back of the shoe here, again, classic Jordan 4 heel tab with that gray Jumpman. Moving around to the outsole of the sneaker here, classic Air Jordan 4 outsole, again with the gray hits, but this time you also get the Starfish hits on the very back of the heel and on the very forefront of the shoe as well. That sail just looks so good with these color choices. Whoever did the colors on this shoe, bravo, you did a really good job. And last but not least, on the insole of the shoe, Starfish insole with the black Jumpman on the heel. And that's pretty much it when it comes to the Air Jordan 4 Starfish. Now again, I like this sneaker a lot. I think this is a great sneaker for women. I like the fact that they didn't just shrink it and pink it, but they actually put a lot of style cues from one of the most popular Air Jordan 4 colorways into this sneaker. I love how they did that. But here's the thing about this sneaker. This sneaker to me just reminds me of the fact that with this being a women's sneaker, I feel like there should be a lot more women discussing the shoe, and that as men, as a male YouTuber, and on behalf of a lot of my other male counterparts on this platform, we have to make sure that we're giving space for women to come into this space to talk about these shoes that matter the most to them, their personal shoes, their sneakers that are really made and geared towards them. If you guys do or don't know, actually a handful of women were actually seeded or gifted pairs from Jordan brand of the Air Jordan 4 Starfish. There's some really fly apparel that Jordan Women's has been coming out with lately that matches really nicely with these. And that tends to always be the dividing factor is in the apparel. A lot of men will never buy the apparel because it's women's clothing, but we have no problem with wearing women's sneakers. Why is that? Sound off below. I get that some colorways are just fresh, and I think that what Jordan brand is trying to do with their women's line right now is toe the line between just shrinking and pinking everything and making colorways that women really want to wear, that really just grew up wanting to wear the same sneakers that the guys were wearing, and then also making sneakers that men won't just gobble up and just eat up with bots or trying to run out to all the stores and buy all the pairs. It's a difficult job towing that line between those two, but I think this sneaker actually does a pretty good job because I saw a lot more women want it than men, but it wasn't so ridiculously ostentatious that it was just glitter and gold and bling all over the sneaker and pink all over the shoe. The colors are dope. The materials, very fly. The storytelling, really dope. And on top of that, again, it incorporated elements from the iconic Air Jordan 4 black cement. So, I mean, you really can't go wrong with these. By the way, if you were wondering why these were $200, that's the reason why. A lot of it goes into the materials. I'm not going to talk about resale here. I'm not going to talk about any of that because to me, these are about more than that. These are about making sure that women are highlighted and they get their hands on the product that means the most to them. And this, in my opinion, was a fantastic sneaker for women. Of course, it's a nice shoe for men as well, but I want to see more women get these sneakers. As a matter of fact, I have a friend of mine that sells sneakers, but she actually taxes men on women's releases, but she charges women retail. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm down for that energy. I'm not mad at it. Fellas, if I said it once, I said it a million times. Let's make sure that women get their sneakers. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make sure that a woman who wears this size gets her hands on these for retail price in case anybody wants it out there. That is a woman. Now, if you're not a woman, it is what it is. I get it. A lot of men got their hands on these that wanted of these. But at the end of the day, let's make sure that we are not leaving women out of the equation. I would love to see more of my women counterparts on YouTube tell these stories about these women's releases. And if there's anything that I can do to help any of you out there get your hands on these releases, just know that I'm down for that. All right, guys, listen, that's pretty much all that I got for these. Now it's time for you guys to sound off down below and let me know what you guys think about the women's Air Jordan 4 Starfish. Were these on your must-cop list? Did you grab these, or did you grab these for your bae, for your boo, for your wifey, for your spouse, or for your girlfriend? Which one did you do, or were these a hard pass? Sound off down below. Let me know. Oh, of course, write it down in the comments. Make sure that you click on that subscribe button so we can welcome you into the Sneaker Fetish family to make sure you don't miss out on any more heat that comes through like these, because I guarantee you I got a lot more heat on the way. As always, I want to thank you guys for joining me here today on Sneaker Fetish, taking a look at these with me, unboxing them with me for a couple of minutes. I go by the name of Kari. This is the women's Air Jordan 4 Starfish. And until next time, I'm out.